Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely, and I am going to give you a breakdown of what is my favorite hole at the Kansas City Wide Open. And I just walked through like 112 degree heat index halfway across the course because I really want to show this hole and maybe make more of these. Because right off the bat, I said favorite hole, which means you can't push back. If I said best hole, everybody could argue in the comments. And if I said best hole, I bet a ton of you would argue because a lot of people hate this hole. I don't care. It's my favorite hole. By the way, hole one's my favorite starting hole. Hole one's beautiful, but this hole is just absolute death. So let me show you. All right, so right off the bat, I'll show you the tee sign, but it doesn't really do you a damn bit of good. You tee off here, you throw through a gap in the trees, there's OB to the right, you land, and there's a gap to the hole. All right, enough about that. So here's what you're looking at off the tee pad. There's a ton of these holes out here. It's a par 4, but there's a ton of these. You have to hit an early gap holes coming out of the woods, which I think is absolutely phenomenal, because if you hit an early tree and you kick into the woods, you are getting a double bogey for sure. I like that. I mean, what's wrong with a hole having a extremely severe penalty? I dig it. Now, by the way, this is drone footage. I was gonna make drone noises, but I'm way too hot to even think about doing that. So this is the pretty big landing area. So if you hit the gap, there's a reasonable landing area. As you can see over here on the right, all that whole line is out of bounds. It's definitely a backhand off the tee. I threw a sidearm, but that's the wrong shot for this hole. But I weighed that against what my skill set was. Remember, the best shot for the hole is not determined by the hole. The best shot for the hole is determined by the best shot for the hole, then factoring in your individual skill set. Now, the whole left side of the fairway, absolute death. If you go in there, it's an OB stroke. You're also pitching out. Now, the thing that drew me to this hole, the thing I liked about it so much, is that if you throw a pretty darn good shot, like a good throw, a good professional throw, this is where you get to. Okay, you can't even see the basket from here. The basket's through those trees. And this is where players are landing, and everybody says, I mean, a lot of people anyways, the common opinion was, you just got to take a couple of the trees out, because if you take a couple of trees out, you have a fairway, because like none of these are actual fairways. And I would completely agree, because this ain't the fairway. You got to push further up the hill. Now, I don't know, it's probably 350, 375 through a gap up a hill. Like, it is really, really hard to get here, but not impossible. Like, I was looking straight down the pipe at the fairway third round, but I was over there out of bounds, so I ended up getting a bogey anyways. But when you land up here, here's your reward. Your reward is a really, really hard shot to get to the hole. I don't even see the basket on here. Wait, where's the basket? I don't even know where the basket is. It's through the tunnels. But it's also absolute death over here and absolute death over there. So basically, you have to be perfect. Now, again, people are not complaining, but they didn't like it because there wasn't a fairway gap over there, but that's not the fairway, so it's pretty easy to counter that. The one argument that I thought was pretty valid was that very few players are going to get to the top of the hill up there to have a look at this fairway. And yeah, if a bunch of players shoot this hole, not that many of them are getting to that landing zone. Maybe a disproportionately low number, but if you took this field and took all the players that were in Europe and all the European players, you would have a much stronger field than we had here in Kansas City. And if that's the case, you're gonna see shots that land up there. One thing I like about this hole, that I love about it, is that there's no plane for par. like literally throw for par and hit the gap, you're gonna pitch out on your second shot up there, but then you got this tunnel shot right there to get to the hole. Like, it's not like you could pitch, and then just throw it under the basket. I mean, you would have an absolutely phenomenal third shot to get a par if you're playing for par. Well, if you're playing for par, by definition, that means it shouldn't require a phenomenal shot. Over here is thick. It might as well be OB. It's not OB, but it's so thick you could get down there with a bad throw, and it's going to take you 2 to 3 shots to get out. And the final thing that makes this hole beautiful is that the basket is on the side of the hill. You actually got to plan your landing area to boot with no opening off to the right. So you're forced to throw a very specific shot. This is really hard. This is borderline too hard of a hole for an A tier, to be honest. Certainly for anybody outside, like really good pros, but it's a pro tour course. And on a pro tour course, I'm totally digging a hole where like if you play the hole okay, you can still bogey. Like the best in the world should be required to throw the best shots. I think this hole does it. So hole 6 at Kansas City wide open, Bad Rock Creek is my favorite hole on this course.